But if you're over 60 and your erections have become soft, unreliable, or completely missing, what I'm about to say may shock you. But it's not your age, it's not low testosterone, and it's not something you just have to accept. The real reason might be sitting in your kitchen, untouched, ignored, and underestimated. I'm talking about 5 specific fruits, yes, natural, whole God-given fruits that have the power to restore blood flow, increase testosterone, and give you back the kind of hard erections you haven't felt in years. But I'm Dormojit Kara, a urologist and men's health specialist with over 30 years of experience helping older men reclaim their confidence and revive their intimacy naturally. I've worked with thousands of men across the country, many of whom believed their sex life was over until they made one small consistent change to their diet. But see, we've been led to believe that medications or hormone therapy are the only options, but that's simply not true. But what if the solution wasn't locked in a prescription bottle, but found in 5 fruits that strengthen your arteries, support hormone balance, and even enhance sleep and nerve function? But all essential for healthy erections. But in this video, I'll walk you through each of these fruits, how they work inside your body, and how to use them the right way. And stay with me until the end, because I'll give you a simple daily plan, and a secret combination trick has helped countless men feel alive, powerful, and deeply connected again. This may be the most important health advice you've heard all year. But before we get started, make sure to subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss powerful practical health advice designed specifically for men over 60. And if this message speaks to you, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0. Your feedback helps me create content that truly supports you. Alright, let's dive in, starting with the very first fruit that's been quietly transforming men's lives after 60. But it's simple, sweet, and chances are it's already sitting in your fridge. But inside this fruit is a compound so powerful, it can help restore the very blood flow that erections depend on. But let's talk about red grapes. But let me take you back to one of my earliest patients, a retired firefighter in his late 60s, a tough guy with a big heart. But behind that proud posture was a quiet frustration. But he told me, "Doc, I feel like my body just isn't mine anymore. I still love my wife, but nothing's working down there." But I'll never forget the pause in his voice. It wasn't just about sex. It was about identity, connection, feeling like a man. And it broke my heart because I knew something simple, but something natural could help him find his way back. But so I asked him to try something he hadn't considered: red grapes. But red grapes are more than just a sweet snack. They're a silent healer, a natural ally for blood flow and male vitality. But what most men don't realize is that these little fruits are packed with a powerful compound called resveratrol. But this natural antioxidant works deep within your blood vessels, helping them expand and relax. And when your blood vessels relax, more oxygen, rich blood flows exactly where you want it: your muscles, your brain, and yes, your penis. But that's the truth. Strong erections don't start with stimulation. They start with circulation, and resveratrol is one of the best natural tools we have to restore that. But this isn't just theory. I've seen it happen over and over again in my own clinic. That firefighter, 3 weeks later, he came back with a grin and said, "You were right, Doc. I didn't expect much, but something's waking up again." That something was his circulation and his confidence. But red grapes don't deliver a jolt like a blue pill. They don't shock your system. What they do is nourish gently and consistently so your body can begin to remember what it's capable of. But what makes red grapes especially powerful is how they target the lower body, right where aging tends to steal circulation first. But if your hands and feet are often cold, if you've lost sensitivity, or if arousal just doesn't feel the same, you're likely dealing with compromised blood flow. And that's exactly where red grapes go to work. But by supporting nitric oxide production, the very chemical your body uses to trigger and maintain an erection, they help you build back what time has taken away. But this is why I encourage older men to add a handful of red grapes to their day, not just for sweetness, but for strength. But eat them with the skin on. That's where most of the resveratrol lives, and stay consistent. But this isn't a one and done fix. But over time the results can be life-changing, better energy, more responsiveness. That quiet thrill of waking up and realizing your body still remembers desire. And while red grapes help restore blood flow, the next fruit on our list does something just as critical, but it works on the inside, calming your nervous system, supporting your hormones, and helping your body recharge in ways you may not have felt in years. But it's the kind of fruit that not only helps you rest, but helps you rise curious. Let's keep going. But now let's talk about a fruit that doesn't just help your body perform. It helps it recover, rebalance, and remember how to feel again. But I'm talking about cherries, not the sugar-loaded kind in a pie, but real ripe, natural cherries, rich in color, rich in healing power. I remember a couple I worked with, married over 40 years. But they still loved each other deeply, but something had shifted. He told me, it's like there's this distance now, not because we want it, but because I just don't feel connected to my body anymore. But his wife nodded quietly, adding, we still hold hands, but it's not the same. That moment stuck with me because I knew what they were really missing wasn't just touch, it was the chemistry, the closeness, the spark that starts from within. And surprisingly, but part of the answer came from something as simple as a bowl of cherries. But cherries are powerful for one crucial reason. They don't just work on your blood, they work on your hormones and your nervous system. But they contain compounds called anthocyanins, which reduce inflammation in your blood vessels, allowing better flow throughout the body, including where it matters most. That means more sensitivity, more responsiveness, and more of that subtle yet powerful feeling of being alive and connected. But here's the secret that most men don't realize: that cherries are also one of the few natural sources of melatonin. That's the hormone your body uses to signal deep restorative sleep. And why does that matter? But because when you sleep deeply, your body produces more testosterone. And without healthy testosterone, your erections, not to mention your desire, don't stand a chance. But so, when older men tell me they feel tired, foggy, emotionally disconnected, and frustrated in the bedroom, one of the first things I ask is, how are you sleeping? And often the answer is, not well. But cherries help change that, not with pills, but with nourishment. But they support better sleep, which leads to better hormone balance, better mood, and yes, better erections. I've seen it firsthand. But that same couple I mentioned, after a month of nightly cherries and a few other simple changes, they came back holding hands again, but this time with warmth in their eyes. He said, I don't know if it's the fruit or the feeling, but I want to hold her again. I want to touch her, not because I should, but because I can. But that's the power of small daily healing. That's the quiet magic of a body that starts to feel safe again, safe enough to be intimate, to be open to want. If you're thinking this all sounds too simple, I get it. But we live in a world where solutions are expected to come in bottles or procedures. But sometimes nature knows better. Sometimes it gives us exactly what we need, if we're willing to listen. But so, if you've been feeling off, if your sleep is shallow, if you've been snapping at your partner or avoiding the bedroom altogether, start with a bowl of cherries before bed. But let them nourish your nervous system, soften your stress, and invite your body back to balance. But once that foundation is laid, once your hormones start shifting and your nights become truly restful, there's another fruit that steps in to fuel the fire. But one that awakens energy from the inside out, that helps your body produce testosterone, not just preserve it. But it's tropical, it's vibrant, and it may be the missing piece in your morning routine. Let's talk about that one next. But once your body starts to rest and recover, it's time to reignite what age may have quietly dimmed your energy, your vitality, and that deep masculine spark that begins with testosterone. And when it comes to fueling that fire from the inside out, few fruits are more powerful than papaya. I remember a man named Frank, a former school principal, 72 years old, but he walked into my office, not because of a specific medical condition, but because he just didn't feel like himself anymore. But his voice was tired. "Doc," he said, "I'm eating right, I'm walking every day, but I still feel like something's missing. It's like my engine's running, but there's no fuel." What he was describing wasn't just physical fatigue, it was a hormonal flatline. But his body was going through the motions, but the drive, the passion, the fire, it just wasn't there anymore. And I knew papaya could help. But papaya is one of nature's best kept secrets for restoring testosterone, especially in men over 60. But it's bright, rich, and loaded with vitamins A, C, and E, each one essential for healthy hormone production. But what sets papaya apart is its ability to reduce inflammation, improve blood flow, and nourish the adrenal glands, which are key to regulating stress and keeping your testosterone stable. But this isn't just about lab numbers or hormone panels. It's about how you feel when you wake up. Do you feel sluggish, irritated, unmotivated? But do you struggle to stay focused or feel emotionally disconnected from your partner? That's often not age, it's low testosterone creeping in quietly. But papaya helps your body remember how to create energy again. It feeds the systems that power your sex drive, your clarity, and your strength. But I'd Frank start with just one simple change: half a cup of ripe papaya every morning, blended into a smoothie with a little Greek yogurt and cinnamon. Nothing fancy, no prescriptions. But within a few weeks, something started shifting. He looked lighter, he moved with more ease, but more than that, he smiled differently. "But Doc," he said, "my wife noticed before I did. She told me I was humming in the kitchen again. I haven't done that in years." But that hum, that's vitality returning. That's testosterone doing what it's supposed to do, quietly waking up your body and soul. But papaya also supports your digestion, which is something many men don't realize affects their sexual health. If your gut is inflamed, your hormones suffer. If your stress is high, your energy drops, and all that ends up showing in the bedroom. But when you support your adrenal system, balance your gut, and reduce internal inflammation, your body becomes fertile ground for desire again, not the forced kind, but the real kind. But the kind that bubbles up when you least expect it, and feels like the man you once knew is finally coming home. It's a beautiful thing to witness. Not a dramatic transformation, but a steady return to life. That's what papaya offers, not a miracle, but a memory, a reminder that your body still knows how to rise if you'll give it the right tools. And just when you think you've covered the inside, circulation, sleep, testosterone, there's one more piece that's just as critical, the foundation of your pelvic health. But because none of this matters if inflammation and urinary issues are quietly working against you, the next fruit helps protect that vital core. And for many of my older patients, it's been the missing link in restoring both confidence and comfort. Let's explore it together. But energy and testosterone alone aren't enough. Not if something deeper is silently interfering with how your body performs. But for so many older men, the issue isn't just low desire or circulation, it's hidden inflammation in the pelvic region, pressure on the prostate, and recurring urinary issues that quietly erode confidence. And this is where cranberries come in, not just as a fruit, but as a powerful protector of everything below the belt. But let me tell you about Harold. He was 67, a retired postman who came to see me after nearly a year of avoiding intimacy with his wife. Not because he didn't love her, he did deeply, but because every time he tried to get close, he felt discomfort, urgency, or the worry of having to run to the bathroom in the middle of it. "But Doc, I feel like my body's betraying me," he said quietly. But that kind of vulnerability takes courage, and what Harold didn't know was that many men his age were going through the same thing, not because they were broken, but because their urinary and pelvic systems were inflamed, and nobody had told them what to do about it. But cranberries are often dismissed as a holiday side dish, but they're one of the most powerful fruits for protecting the urinary tract and prostate. especially as we age. But they're rich in compounds called proanthocyanidins, which fight inflammation, clear harmful bacteria, and support the delicate blood vessels that run through your pelvis. But that means fewer urinary infections, reduced swelling in the prostate, and better blood flow to the areas that make intimacy possible and pleasurable. But I had Harold start adding cranberries into his daily meals. Just a handful of unsweetened dried cranberries with his lunch, and a few ounces of real, pure cranberry juice in the morning. But within 3 weeks he called me and said, I didn't realize how much pressure I was holding until it was gone. But he was sleeping through the night without urgency, feeling more comfortable, and for the first time in over a year, he and his wife made love without fear or interruption. But this kind of change isn't just about biology, it's about freedom. But when your pelvic region is inflamed or irritated, it's hard to feel safe enough to enjoy intimacy. Your body is tense, distracted, and focused on discomfort. But when you relieve that pressure, when your urinary system functions like it's supposed to, everything opens up. You become more confident, more comfortable, and more connected. And for women, by the way, cranberries can help, too. They support vaginal health, reduce dryness, and improve comfort during sex, especially post-menopause. So, adding cranberries to your routine isn't just for you. It can be a shared step toward healing, closeness, and trust. But there's something beautiful that happens when the body feels safe again, when the mind is no longer occupied by discomfort or tension. That's when desire starts to return, not out of obligation, but from a genuine sense of readiness. And it all starts with healing the foundation, your core. But now that we've supported your base, reduced inflammation, and brought back hormonal strength, we're ready to take things even further. But because there's one fruit left in this journey that does what no other can. But it cleans your arteries, boosts blood pressure the right way, and unleashes the kind of lasting power that so many men over 60 thought was gone for good. Let's talk about that next. But once the pressure is gone and your foundation feels solid again, there's one final piece that completes the picture. A fruit that doesn't just support blood flow, but actually helps clean out your arteries and reignite full body vitality. That fruit is pomegranate, and for many of my patients, it has been the turning point. I remember Dennis, a 70-year-old retired engineer who had tried everything: testosterone patches, blood pressure meds, but even a few pills that promised quick results but left him with headaches and zero desire. But doc, he said, I don't want a short-term fix. I want to feel alive again. I want to be with my wife without worrying if I'll disappoint her or myself. But he didn't need more pressure. He needed his body to cooperate. And the key in his case was circulation. But pomegranate is one of the most potent fruits in the world when it comes to cardiovascular health. But here's what most people miss: your penis is a vascular organ. That means if your arteries are stiff, blocked, or inflamed, your erection will suffer. It's not a question of mood or attraction. It's plumbing. But pomegranate helps restore that plumbing from the inside out. But what makes this fruit so powerful is its high level of polyphenols, natural antioxidants that improve blood vessel elasticity, reduce arterial plaque, and increase nitric oxide production. But nitric oxide is your body's signal to open the floodgates. Literally, it relaxes the smooth muscles in your arteries, allowing blood to surge where it's needed most. And when that happens, but especially after age 60, the difference can feel dramatic. But for Dennis, we started with just half a cup of 100% pure pomegranate juice each morning. Nothing fancy. But within a few weeks he started to feel stronger, not just sexually, but throughout his whole body. But my walks are easier, he told me. I'm not huffing at the stairs, and I don't feel like I'm dragging my feet anymore. And at night, let's just say my wife and I are reconnecting. But that's the power of circulation. When your blood flows freely, your body responds not just with erections, but with stamina, focus, mood, and clarity. You don't feel half alive anymore. You feel like yourself. There's also something else pomegranate does that's rarely talked about. It helps regulate testosterone by inhibiting an enzyme called aromatase. But aromatase is the enzyme responsible for converting testosterone into estrogen. And yes, men do have estrogen. But as we age, the balance can tilt the wrong way. But pomegranate helps bring it back: more testosterone, less fat storage, better erections. And what I love most is that pomegranate works gently, no sudden spikes, no crashes, just steady improvement day by day. But you drink the juice or eat the seeds, and over time, you notice things: your hands feel warmer, your mind feels sharper, and your sex drive no longer needs convincing, it just returns. But Dennis isn't unique. I've seen dozens of men benefit from this one change. It's not a miracle, it's a decision, a daily act of nourishment that clears the path for everything else to function better. So, now that you've discovered these 5 incredible fruits: grapes for circulation, cherries for sleep and hormone balance, papaya for testosterone, cranberries for pelvic health, and pomegranate for total body blood flow, you might be wondering, how do I put this all together? But do I need to eat them all every day? Is there a right time, a wrong time? Great questions, and the answers may surprise, because the next step isn't about adding complexity. It's about building a simple plan that fits into your life. One that's easy, sustainable, and actually enjoyable. Let's break it down one step at a time. But now that you've discovered the 5 fruits that target the very roots of sexual decline: circulation, hormone balance, inflammation, and energy. But it's time to bring it all together in a way that actually fits into your life. Because knowledge alone doesn't heal, action does. And the good news is this action isn't overwhelming. It doesn't require a strict diet, expensive supplements, or complicated routines. It just starts with one simple plan. But a daily rhythm that works with your body, not against it. I've seen too many men try to fix everything all at once. They dive into detoxes, strict meal plans, and protocols that burn them out within days. But that's not what this is. This is about consistency: gentle, nourishing steps that allow your body to reawaken in its own time, on its own terms. But you don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin and stick with it. But let me share what I recommend to most of my older patients. It's a simple plan designed to fit seamlessly into your day. But in the morning, you start with a cup of fresh papaya, either on its own or blended with a spoonful of Greek yogurt. This feeds your testosterone, supports digestion, and kickstarts your energy. But mid-morning or around lunch, have a small handful of red grapes. These will boost your blood flow, sharpen your mind, and prime your body for better circulation throughout the day. Then in the afternoon, add in some dried cranberries, toss them into a salad, a small bowl of nuts, or eat them straight. But these support your pelvic health, reduce inflammation, and ease pressure on the prostate. Before dinner or in the early evening, drink half a glass of pomegranate juice, not from concentrate, not sugar-laden, but pure and natural. But let that juice work on your arteries, restore blood vessel flexibility, and keep your heart and lower body pumping strong. And finally, an hour or so before bed, enjoy a bowl of cherries. But this will help your body wind down, support melatonin production, and improve your sleep quality so your testosterone levels can naturally reset overnight. What I love most about this rhythm is how simple it is. You're not counting calories, you're not depriving yourself, you're just feeding your body what it recognizes, what it craves, but in what it was built to respond to. And when you do that, day after day, something amazing begins to happen. But your body softens where it needs to, strengthens where it must, and reconnects you to the feelings you thought were gone. But I've had patients call me weeks into this routine, surprised by what they noticed. "Doc, I feel clearer. I'm sleeping through the night," my wife said. "I look brighter." These changes aren't always dramatic at first, but they're real, and they build. But one small habit becomes two, one moment of connection becomes more, and before long, the man who felt distant from his body begins to return to himself. But what if you want to take it one step further? What if you're ready to make this not just a routine, but a ritual that supercharges your results, saves you time, and makes these 5 fruits even more powerful together than they are alone. Because that's what we'll cover next, a few simple combinations that turn your daily fruits into fuel for desire, strength, and deep connection. Let me show you exactly how to make it work smoothly, naturally, and in a way you'll actually enjoy. But now that you have a simple daily plan, the next step is to make these 5 fruits not just a checklist, but a part of your life, a rhythm, a habit, even a pleasure. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is by combining them. But not only does this make things easier and more enjoyable, but when these fruits are used together in the right way, their benefits multiply. You're not just eating for health, you're fueling desire, for confidence and vitality. But let me tell you about Charles, a 74-year-old widower who recently remarried. He came to me after struggling to keep up with his new wife emotionally and physically, but he was motivated, committed, and ready to do whatever it took to reclaim his strength. But like many men his age, he didn't want to be taking handfuls of pills or spending hours preparing meals. But what he needed was something simple and sustainable, so we worked together to create combinations that worked with his lifestyle, ones he could look forward to, not dread. But in the morning, Charles starts his day with a smoothie. It's simple: half a cup of papaya, a splash of pomegranate juice, a spoonful of Greek yogurt, and a pinch of cinnamon. But this one glass supports testosterone, energy, blood flow, and digestion, all before 9-10 a.m. It became his favorite part of the day. But Doca, he told me, I haven't felt this steady in years, not wired, not tired, just ready. That's what a smart start does. But day, he'll toss red grapes and dried cranberries into a salad or have them alongside a handful of almonds. It's his lunch upgrade, fighting inflammation, protecting the prostate, but in boosting nitric oxide naturally. These aren't big changes, they're just smart pairings that add up to big results. But at night, before winding down, he enjoys a small bowl of frozen cherries with a sprinkle of dark chocolate chips. But this isn't just delicious. It's therapeutic. The cherries help him sleep. The chocolate supports nitric oxide and adds pleasure. And together they signal to his body that it's time to rest, recharge, and rebuild testosterone overnight. But these combinations aren't random, they're intentional. But each fruit supports the next. Each time of day works with your body's natural rhythm, and the emotional shift that happens when food becomes healing, when routine becomes ritual. But is something I've seen transform lives more times than I can count. And here's the beauty of it, you don't have to be perfect. You don't need to hit every fruit every single day. What matters is consistency over time. But what matters is the willingness to treat your body with care and attention, even in small ways. Because those small acts of care, those handfuls of grapes, those evening cherries, but can be the very things that bring your vitality back one bite at a time. I've had men tell me they feel more connected to themselves, more in control, more optimistic, not because they overhauled their lives, but because they finally started listening to what their body was asking for: simplicity, nourishment, consistency. And now with these tools in hand, the final question becomes, where do you go from here? But you've learned the what, the why, and the how. But what about the part that's even deeper? The reason this all matters in the first place. The part where we talk about what it means to be a man over 60 who still desires, still connects, still wants to feel fully alive. But let's talk about that, because this is where the real journey begins. But now, after all we've uncovered together, the truth about these 5 simple fruits, the plan to bring them into your daily rhythm, and the quiet power they hold to transform your energy, your intimacy, and your confidence, let me leave you with something even more important than facts or belief, because everything I've shared with you today, from red grapes that restore circulation to cherries that balance your sleep, and hormones to papaya that reignites testosterone, cranberries that protect your pelvic foundation, and pomegranate that cleanses your arteries. Each of these is a tool. But tools are only useful when we believe we're still worth building, still worth fixing, still capable of change. But I've sat across from hundreds of men over 60, men who have served, worked, provided, survived, and sacrificed for others their entire lives, and I see the same thing again and again. But when it comes to their own health, especially their sexual health, they hesitate, they downplay, they convince themselves that this is just what getting older looks like. But I'm here to tell you that's not the whole story. You are not done, you are not broken, you are not too old to want or to feel or to be deeply connected again. But the truth is most of the systems that control erection strength, blood flow, hormones, nervous system balance are still responsive even in your 60s, 70s and beyond. They just need the right fuel. But the right signal, the right care, and that's exactly what these fruits offer. But they don't mask symptoms, they restore function, they don't force results, they invite your body to remember. They work slowly, gently, consistently, and naturally, and when used together, they don't just support your sexual health, they support your heart, your sleep, your mood, your strength, your sense of self. But let me tell you something personal. The reason I'm so passionate about this topic isn't just because I'm a doctor. It's because I've seen what happens when men get their spark back. I've seen marriages soften. I've seen grandfathers laugh like boys. I've seen men who felt invisible stand a little taller, not because of ego, but because of presence. Because when you feel connected to your body again, something changes in how you walk through the world. But so today, I want you to take a look in your fridge, in your grocery list, in your morning routine, not with guilt or pressure, but with curiosity. But what if a handful of grapes really could make a difference? What if a bowl of cherries helped you sleep deeper? But what if papaya, cranberries, and pomegranate could do more for your intimacy than a drawer full of pills ever did? What if this small step is where things begin to shift? Because the older we get, the more we realize that healing doesn't always come from big moments. It comes from small daily choices, made with intention. It comes from saying, I may be older, but I'm not done yet. But it comes from believing that your best days, your best nights may still be ahead. You've spent a lifetime giving your time and energy to others. Maybe now is the time to give some of that back to yourself. So, start today. Start with a piece of fruit, start with belief, and remember, no matter your age, your body still wants to work for you. You just have to give it the chance. If this message resonated with you, if you found even one insight that made you think, yes, I can do this, then please take a moment to support this channel. Click the like button. But it helps more men like you find this vital information. Share it with a friend, a brother, or someone who needs to hear that aging doesn't mean giving up, and leave a comment below. But type 1 if this helped you, or 0 if you think we can do better. I read every comment because your feedback matters. And if you'd like to go one step further in supporting this mission to bring real, honest health advice to older men, consider making a small donation. Every contribution helps us create more content, but reach more people, and change more lives. But you're not alone in this. We're building a community of men who are choosing strength, connection, and health at every age. Thank you for being here.